Okay, welcome back. This segment we're going to cover the health effects associated with mold. There are a lot of misunderstandings, and I want to use the term old wives' tales. If that's probably not politically correct anymore, but it kind of illustrates what often happens as relates to mold. So the health effects, what it does is it causes lung problems. And your respiratory system is going to be affected by too much mold. According to EPA, the people most at risk of lung issues or of mold effects are going to be the young and the old and the people who are sick, maybe somebody who's got a cancer, especially if it's a lung cancer, or pulmonary issues generally. Those are the people who, as one doctor put it to me, says that sometimes mold is the straw that breaks the camel's back. For example, one of the homes that I did had a leaking roof, and this was the back west corner of the house, and this was the corner that kid was in. This particular child had asthma and some other breathing issues, and then they moved him into this older home. And what had happened is the roof leaked, and it got into the outer wall right there in that bedroom that they moved this child in. And you go from having perhaps a few mold spores per cubic foot in that room to perhaps hundreds or thousands of mold spores in his room. And no sooner did he move into that room than his symptoms got so much worse, and he had to move right back out. Now, as I was preparing for doing this class live probably 20 years ago, I looked up EPA's information, I looked up CDC, I went to Salt Lake and Utah County Health Departments, and then I talked to a couple of lung specialists. And so I went to Salt Lake County Health Department and I said, okay, give me your best story. Their experience was that mold was something that apartment dwellers who wanted out of their contract would claim. I actually got into one of those where somebody was trying to get out of their rent, and sure enough, they did actually have mold in there, but what they had done is they had placed a wicker basket right next to, they were using this furnace room as a storage room, and they had all of their boxes and stuff jammed in this closet, including a wicker basket located right next to the furnace flue. Now, it was moldy, and the reason for that is that the water wasn't being well managed on the roof, and it was running down this flue and causing this wicker basket to be wet enough for long enough to be moldy. So yes, they did have a mold problem in there. My thing as the home inspector is if you got that much crap jammed up against the furnace and the venting, you're liable to burn the house down, which is a much bigger problem to me than the mold. Another personal story that I want to use to illustrate. My dad is 91, and he is in much better shape than he was 10 years ago. My mom died about 8 years ago, and there was a time when it was very iffy as to which of them was going to pass sooner. So fast forward now about 10 years, and he is in much better shape than he was back then. There's a number of medicines that he no longer takes. He doesn't bother anymore, and he's so much more healthy than he used to be. So the question becomes why, and I'm thinking that one of the reasons why is that he eliminated a potential mold problem inside his home. He used to have a swamp cooler, and every summer that swamp cooler was not only bringing in molds from the exterior, but it was creating a certain amount of mold as those pads were being wetted, and then that mold was being blown into the house. He was very iffy as to how long he would survive and whether he would outlive my mom. Since then, we have put in a central air unit, and his health and his lungs just keep getting better. At 91, it looks like he's got another 50 years to live. This is kind of an example of the straw that breaks the camel's back, as I referred to earlier. And so if you add molds to that from swamp coolers and the molds that they add and create, it just about finished him. Take that away, and now all of a sudden he's a much more healthy man. You've got the old, the young, the sick, and again, if you've got somebody with cancer and you add mold to that, especially again if it's a lung cancer, that's a problem.